Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity, and we're going to continue with our answering of questions from the jar. And just want to get my timer set up here, and we're going to pull a question from the jar, and we're going to do our best to answer it within a 10-minute time frame. Will it be perfect? No, sir, it will not be perfect. It will be completely imperfect, but hopefully authentic, explaining my sincere reason for doing it. Anyway, in one way or another. So I'm going to reach into the jar and I'm going to pull out a question. And it says, do you participate in organized religion? I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to set my timer. And I will begin to answer the question. Do you participate in organized religion? Do I participate? Normally I would say, no, I don't really participate in organized religion anymore. I certainly do not have anything against organized religion anymore. But I don't actively participate like I used to. I was raised in a very traditional Catholic family, and the practice of Catholicism was very, very important to my family, and it was something we did with great vigor and staunch. Became a part of our lives. It was, in a sense, our lives. Being Catholic is how we identified ourselves, and participating in the rituals of the Catholic Church, the sacraments, be they Mass, communion, confession. I've had all my rites. I even had my last rites because I got sick one year and ended up in CCU, and I ended up getting my last rites. So I even have all my rights. I went through the whole thing. And they were very, very important to me at the time. But at the same time, I look back at my Catholic church, my Catholic upbringing now, and I see great distancing between what I believed then and what I believe now. I still have great reverence for the church, and I still go to church on occasion. I still go to funerals and weddings, and I still participate in Holy Communion, even though I'd probably get a lightning bolt to the head, or someone would tell me so. And I remember when we were acting up in church as children, there'd always be some older lady behind us who was ready to hit us over the head with a missile if we giggled or anything in church, or if we forgot to genuflect at the wrong time, or if we didn't stand up quick enough when it was time to stand up. So I can just imagine her, hit me over the head with a missilette for going to church, going to communion, when our church says that, or that church says that, you have to be clean confession-wise before you take Holy Communion, and not going to Mass for a few years, a few dozen years, is definitely a reason for not being taking communion. But see, I don't see it like that anymore. I see a separation between the doctrine and the dogma that I was indoctrinated in, and what I think Jesus was saying. If that's, again, the word blasphemy is going to come up, because, man, everything you do in the Catholic Church is blasphemous if it's not right according to the way it should be. And I know there's a lot of other religions out there that say the same thing. But I see now that indoctrination, those conditioning, that belief building that occurred in me since I was a child, probably did a lot more damage and took me further from the God I was seeking than actually closer. And it doesn't have to be that way for Catholics. I'm just saying, for me, in my particular upbringing, it was. I think it took me further from that which I was seeking, because it made me feel very, very small, very, very sinful, very, very unworthy, very, very guilty of everything, and constantly in need of penance and forgiveness. And even the thought, of thinking that maybe, I can get closer to God was a sin, because God was way, way up here, paternal figure with the beard, way up here, vengeful, judgmental, easily disturbed and insulted. And here I was, this little being that was worthless, but at the same time I had the power to insult God just by looking the wrong way or saying the wrong word. So that's the upbringing I grew up in. So it was very important for me to de-doctrinize myself, and to distance myself from some of the beliefs that stayed in my core and probably are still in the core beliefs in my subconscious mind right now that I still operate on to some degree. But I had to see God in a different light. I had to free myself from those beliefs. Not necessarily the beliefs the church is, inspiring people to believe, but the way I was taught to believe, and the way I grew up believing, and what those beliefs have done for this little me, or this individual, this soul beneath the me that was trying to find itself, was probably more hindered by my religious upbringing than it was helped. But I still believe that organized religion can be very, very beneficial for many, many people, and it can help bring them closer to God and bring them closer to self and help them find the answers they're seeking, and to give them that peace that surpasses all understanding that a faith tradition is supposed to help us find. So I am nothing against organized religion. I'm just saying, for me, it wasn't beneficial. So yes, I stepped away from the church, and I stepped away and I questioned, and I began to look into, even in university, when I first went to university, there was this wonderful course called Religious Experiences East and West. I knew then I was trying to, the theology of the Catholic Church was so beautiful in so many ways, but it wasn't helping me find what I was looking for. So I was starting to distance myself then. But at the same time, I was still very indoctrinated and very sinful and very guilty and very believing that, if I did anything wrong, I was going to go to HE double hockey sticks. But I took this course, and wow, what an eye-opener. Even though it was still like, I can't learn about this. I can't learn about Hinduism. I can't learn about Buddhism. I can't learn about this Taoist philosophy because it goes against what I believe in. And I was kind of projecting it onto the professor and saying, oh my gosh, But it really opened my eyes. And so I think since then I began to be more lenient and the more I pull my way away from my indoctrination as a Catholic, I started to experiment and look into other religions and to see. And then I finally came up with this realization that all religions, regardless if they're organized, regardless if they're whatever, lead to the same destination, whether we know it or not, and whether the religious organizations, the man-made religious organizations, tend to be such. So I do not follow an organized religion, but I still have great respect for it. At the same time, I'm very cautious, very cautious. I mentioned earlier that I'm very cult fanatic. I am so obsessed with finding out about cults, and I have no idea why. I read all I can about cults. I watch as many videos as I can about cults. I just think I want to know why people are indoctrinated into the cult world, and what cult leaders have that make them do the things they do, and what are they really looking for when they take these beautiful belief systems. Just like the Catholic Church is a beautiful belief system, has beautiful belief in it in so many ways. Yes, there's limitations and there's bias and there's, against women, and it's a little patriarchal, and it's a little, misogynist even to some degree, and it doesn't have a great, women's rights. It doesn't honor them fully, and, even homosexuality is still an issue for the Catholic Church, etc., etc., etc. But at the same time, there is some beauty there, right? But to take a beautiful belief system and to use it to control masses of people, especially for financial gain, really is something I have a hard time accepting. And I'm not talking about the Catholic Church here, though some people would say, yes, it's exactly what the Catholic Church is doing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about cults, basically, and why there's a distinction between an organized religion and a cult, right? So I've been really fascinated with cults. So I'm really, really wary of religious leaders. I'm really, really wary of anybody who calls himself a guru or a spiritual teacher. I'm really wary of that type of ideation because I've seen, through what I've researched, what it has done to so many people. And the people go into these organized religions and they go into these cults. And I mean to separate them, big separation there, I'm not comparing the two, for the best of reasons. They want to find God. They want to find peace that surpasses all understanding. They want to be the best human beings they can be. And these are intelligent people with great wisdom and intelligence when they start, and they're not just followers who lose themselves. But something happens in that what they do, that beauty of the message gets lost for the egoic need of the leaders. And so does that happen in some organized churches just as it happens in cults? Yes, it does. So that leaves me a little bit wary. And that doesn't mean we can't group all organized religions and call them cults, and all leaders, because there's some beautiful leaders out there, and beautiful priests I've got to know over the years, and beautiful whatever, I'm sure, gurus and masters out there. But the message is what's important, and the satsang, the getting together to share that message, is also wonderful. And the Catholic Church gave us that too. I love the rituals, and I love being in the church with other believers. I always had a great spiritual lift from that. But I had to remove myself from the beliefs that were a little bit too strangulating for me. So no, I don't practice really an organized religion, but I will participate on occasion. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that answer is okay, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.